Season 3, Episode 6 of The Summer I Turned Pretty. How are we all doing? I am not well. I'm not okay after that last scene, and I want to talk about it. I even have a maybe unpopular opinion about that final surfboard injury scene, and I want to see if anyone agrees with me, but you'll have to stick around to the end to find out. Let's jump right in. Okay, I hardly even know where to begin. I was not expecting that last scene. Right off the bat, I am glad that Belly followed Conrad to check on him, because initially when he comes through the house and he's clearly injured, she asks him if he's okay, and he says yes, and she kind of goes back to what she's doing for a second. So with Belly kind of acting out of character at times lately, I was glad to see her kind of second guess that and say, no, actually, I should go check on him. He doesn't want her help, probably for a lot of reasons. We know he's been finding it hard to be around her and be close to her, and for somebody to help you like bandage up a severe gash like that, they are going to have to get close to you, and I think he knows that and is kind of trying to push her off from helping him. Also, Conrad's not really the type to accept help from others. We know that he is the person who is always taking care of those around him, and I will say it was nice to see him eventually accept and take her help, probably because he was in just such a vulnerable state. So Belly's helping him clean up the cut and bandage it. He's obviously in a lot of pain. He's obviously in a very vulnerable position, and this is physically the closest that him and Belly have been since the peach scene in episode 5. And so Belly kind of helps him clean it up and get the bandage on. And then, of course, False God starts playing, and you know it's going to be a very impactful moment. You also hear something really noticeable. You also hear this heartbeat right before False God comes on. You kind of hear this heartbeat, and I think that could be taken a lot of ways. One, it's like they're both probably very nervous in each other's close presence. I took it more as Belly's, that, you know, her heart is racing. I think it's just a reminder that as much as she tells herself she doesn't feel anything for Conrad anymore, the only reason she's been able to tell herself that is because she's been away from him. She hasn't been physically near him very much in the past 4 years. And when she is, her heart starts racing again. I also think it's, if you want to dig a little deeper, I had the kind of thought that maybe it's Belly coming back to life a little bit. You know, we've kind of, the way Belly, we're seeing her in season 3 so far, hasn't really been Belly. And so I think hearing her heartbeat, for me, I was like, there she is, you know, there's her heartbeat. Her heart is beating for something as she sits here close to Conrad, caring for him. So the heartbeat, the music, False God, the lighting, and then we've got Conrad's romantic wet hair. We all know Belly loves him in some wet hair, don't we all? It's kind of a callback to that 4th of July episode in season 1 where she tells him, I've always thought you look very romantic with wet hair. There's been a couple of times throughout the series where they have these significant, impactful moments together, and he has wet hair. I think I'm going to do a wet hair video. Maybe that'll be my next video. And yeah, she's looking at him. It's like it zooms in on their faces. He's in pain, right? He keels over and puts his wet hair, his head on her shoulder, and you just see her react to him, you know, physically touching her, not even in a way that's intended to be intimate, but it ends up being intimate. She's helping him. She's caring for him while he's vulnerable. He's got his head on her shoulder because he is just in so much pain. He's giving into that help that she's providing him. And we see him looking at his eyes, then looking down at his lips, then back up at his face. It really seems like they are going to kiss. Everything is set up perfectly for it. It seems like it's the moment we've been all waiting for. Now, here's where I want to share my maybe unpopular opinion, and I want to know if anybody agrees with me, so please let me know in the comments. I am seeing so much dialogue about people saying that they are ready for Belly to just cheat on Jeremiah with Conrad, and here's what I have to say to that, because I don't agree. Do I want them to get together? Absolutely. Do I want her to leave Jeremiah for Conrad? Yes. Not because I feel Belly is very deserving of Conrad lately, but because it's what Conrad wants, and we just want our boy Conrad to be happy. But I don't want it to happen through cheating for a couple of reasons. One, I just don't want that to be Belly and Conrad's story. I think they're better than that. I think Conrad is certainly better than that. Think about how affected he was by knowing that Adam cheated on Susanna. Think about his conversation in the car with Jeremiah and Adam and how he views relationships. It's just not in keeping with who Conrad is or who he's become. Also, Conrad has done a lot of work on himself over the past few years. Yes, he's hurting and he's not in the greatest mental state as it pertains to Belly, but he's been going to therapy. He has been confiding in a friend, Agnes, which is a very healthy, mature thing to do. He's been taking care of himself, the basics, out in Stanford, and I think he's just like come a long way from season 1 Conrad, who wasn't very in tune with his emotions and, you know, wasn't very reflective about his actions. So Conrad's come a long way, and he's kind of become this very admirable young man. Like his character is important to him. And so as a viewer, as a Team Conrad girly, as somebody who cares about the character, that's important to me too. That is not how I personally want to see them get together. Did I want them to kiss in that moment? Would it have been such a satisfying kiss? Yes. But would I prefer that they eventually have that moment under different, more honorable circumstances? Yeah. So I think that moment served a different purpose. I don't think that moment with False God playing was, oh, and by the way, the last time we heard False God was when Jeremiah almost, you know, tried to kill them with a firework. So it was an interrupted kiss. Sorry, I'm stumbling on my words. It was an interrupted kiss. And again, here we have, the kiss was interrupted by, I think, Conrad realizing that they might kiss at any moment and kind of pumping the brakes a little bit. He's not fully in his right mind because he's in so much pain, but I think he's in his right mind enough to hit pause on that potential kiss. So I'm not sure. Does anybody else share that opinion? I've seen countless TikToks of people saying, just cheat already, just cheat on Jeremiah. And I understand the underlying sentiment, but for their story and for how long, you know, Conrad has been pining for Belly, I just want their reunion to be better than that, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So then we have Belly's inner dialogue very briefly come back. We've been missing that dialogue. We have not had very much access to her thoughts and how she's processing everything that's going on. And it's really been like this wall that I think has been holding us back from fully understanding the spectrum of her feelings, why she's making the decisions she's making. We can guess. All of us have our theories about why she's doing what she's doing, and most of our theories line up. But at the end of the day, we have been largely cut off from access to her inner dialogue. So we briefly get it back, and she says, "What did I almost do there? This wasn't like the peaches." I squealed over excitement over, hearing her thought about that peach scene. We all want to know, what did she think about that peach scene? So it sounds like to me, she took that peach scene as Conrad sort of like making the move towards her. And we saw that in episode 5, where after the peach scene, she looks visibly shook. But this time she's saying, "It's me," which, we can see that in the scene. She was the one who's kind of moving towards him. Yeah, they were both, had their heads together and were looking at each other, but she was looked like she was inching in for that kiss. And so she's asking herself, what am I doing? She touches her shoulder where his, I believe it's where his head was touching her. I've seen a little bit of discourse on this, people saying she was touching her heart. That's not the side her heart is on, if I'm reading that correctly. I think it was like, you could see on her shirt, there was like a wet spot from his head. I think she's like, she can almost still feel what it feels like to have his head on her shoulder. She's just so affected by this moment that they had. And I think this might be the turning point. I'm begging for this to be the turning point where Belly can start to sort of unravel the belief systems she's been holding around what's going on. To all of us, it seems so obvious that Conrad really still has feelings for you, Belly. What are you doing? But I had this thought when I was lying in bed last night, because I stayed up too late to watch this episode when I said that I wouldn't. And the last time Belly and Conrad had a real conversation about their relationship and what's been going on with them, unless I'm really missing something, was that scene at the end of season 2, I'm getting jumbled. I believe it was season 2, in the motel, where one night Conrad says that he still wants her, and the next morning he says he doesn't. We all know why. Now it's because of the promise he made to Susanna. But from Belly's point of view, that was the last time they had a real productive conversation. I mean, it wasn't productive because it was dishonest, but a real, true conversation about their relationship. And at that conversation, he tells her he doesn't want her. I think she's just been clinging to that these past 4 years, because I'm just seeing so much conversation around how can she not realize that he, still has feelings for her? And yeah, it seems like she's missing the obvious. She is. I mean, people's feelings can change in 4 years, even if he truly meant that he didn't want her back then, but he didn't mean it. We know that. But I think she just took that so to heart, him saying that he didn't want her. I think she just clung to that, and she doesn't want to get hurt again. So she's not allowing herself to entertain the idea that either that's not true, which we know it's not true, or maybe it's changed and he does want her now. She just doesn't seem to be letting her mind go there. And I think we see that again back to the conversation around Rosie the dog, where she's mixing up Conrad and Jeremiah. She seems to just be projecting her feelings for Conrad onto Jeremiah, and everything she feels for Conrad, she's just focusing her energy on Jeremiah. Anyway, that last scene was just really beautiful, that moment between them, even though, nothing happened between them. Something did happen, nothing maybe physically happened, but I think that is going to signal a shift in Belly's mindset. I think the part of her brain that she's locked away, the part of her heart that she's locked away where Conrad lives, I think it's going to start to open a little bit. Like I said, was not expecting that last scene. I thought it was just a slow episode. I thought maybe because there was so much to unpack in episode 5, they were just giving us a slow episode in between. I'm glad that I was wrong. I feel like it was kind of saved by that last scene. And I'm so excited to see Belly's thought process kind of turn back towards maybe some reflection and thinking about her own feelings and actually examining her own feelings. I think she's just locked her heart up and not let herself go there. And this moment with Conrad, at the very least, is going to tell her that something is still there on her part. So I hope that we are seeing the downfall of Team Jellyfish. I'm sorry if you're Team Jeremiah, but that's just how I feel. In any case, this was a fun deep dive as always. I am having a blast doing these. I've only done a couple and I'm already blown away by the positive response, so I'm going to keep doing them. I'd love to keep hearing from you guys. Leave me comments, send me messages, tell me what you want from me. I started by doing the deep dives back into season 1, and I'm going to try to catch up and do all of season 3. Yeah, they won't be in order, but I feel like that's okay. We're all just so deep in The Summer I Turned Pretty that I just feel like it doesn't really matter what order we do them in. Also, I know we all feel really passionately about The Summer I Turned Pretty. I'm just going to ask everybody to please play nice in the comments. We don't all have to fully agree, but I really want this to be a positive space, and I don't want to... I hate to have to delete people's comments or block people, but if anybody's being really nasty to other people, I will do that. I've had to do a couple of those. And keep in mind too, when we do these deep dives, when I do these deep dives, we're all going to have different takes on things, and our thoughts about why Belly did what she did or why Conrad did what she did. They're often colored by our own life experience, right? So not everyone's going to have the exact same take. That's okay. No need to come for anybody. No need to come for me. I really want this to be a fun, positive space, and I thank you so much for joining me on these deep dives. If there's anything you want to see from me, any analysis, just let me know. I'm happy to do a video on it. I'm just going to kind of keep diving to all topics The Summer I Turned Pretty, and we're going to have so much fun these last 5-6 weeks as we go towards the finale.